Hello and welcome to the first ever edition of the ForzaFussball podcast. Today with me we have at Covering Europe, Kane, at HR Football, Harry, and at Disguise Past, Josh. Do you want to say hello?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Okay, so in this podcast, the bit about it is just four of us. We're going to have guests most weeks. We talk about the Serie A, the Premier League, and the Bundesliga. We're going to, at the moment as a transfer window, we're going to have chats about the latest moves as well. So let's get on with it anyway. The Bundesliga started this weekend, so we're going to review some results. On the Friday night, Bayern Munich won 3-1 against Mönchengladbach. What are your thoughts on this, Harry?
Well, it was an expected win for the champions of Europe and the treble winners. And as I was updating it was a great game, if I'm honest. I mean, it was end-to-end stuff, and Mönchengladbach had their event of chances, and I have to admit they were unlucky. What happened was a penalty was awarded against them for Bayern Munich for handball from Dominguez, and so they took it, but Ter Stegen saved it. And as the ball came out, it hit Dominguez again, and another penalty was awarded, and they scored that one, and that sort of changed the game around. But Bayern looked good, and so did Gladbach. I think it's going to be a good season for both of them, and especially Bayern, of course, with their great side.
Yeah, Guardiola on his first Bundesliga game. To be honest, Bayern Munich didn't look too convincing, did they? Mönchengladbach hit the post, if I'm right, and had a few chances. Anyway, let's go on to the Dortmund game. I don't know, should we go for Kane? Dortmund won 4-0. Aubameyang got a hat-trick. What are your thoughts?
Yep, Aubameyang was absolutely fantastic on his first proper game for Dortmund. Lewandowski rounding off the scoring again, and it just really showed that Dortmund are going to be competing this season. Bayern haven't necessarily got the Bundesliga in their hands. Dortmund, Schalke, possibly Mönchengladbach could all be in and around the top spot.
Yeah, some were saying that maybe Lewandowski and Aubameyang couldn't play together, but Lewandowski sort of altered his positioning and came in the sort of number 10 role, and they actually played really well together. Anyway, should we let's go to the Wolfsburg game, where Hanover won 2-0 at home to Wolfsburg. What are your thoughts, Josh?
Obviously, it was quite a strange game, especially with the two Wolfsburg players being sent off. I think one of them was that young player, Maxi Arnold. Not the most appealing fixture for the support, for the spectators and everyone to watch, but it was disappointing for Wolfsburg to lose the first game, but good 3 points for Hanover. And Hanover did probably deserve the win. And I think Mami Biramjouf, formerly of United, he looked quite sharp up top. So I do think if they can hang on to Juve, they might be able to do quite well this season and finish around the Europa League playoffs. But a good start for Hanover, less so for Wolfsburg.
Yeah, these two teams they were sort of steady eddies in the middle of the Bundesliga. 9th and 11th they finished last season. Neither scored too many or conceded too many. But like you say, Juve now settling in, and he's really a talented young player, so he could turn into something special. And finally...
Yeah, can I just...
Oh yeah, go on.
As a United fan, when he left, I sort of paid a small attention to him. And in his first season, he did well compared to what he did to United. And then last season, he really showed his quality. And he's a good young player. He's not as young as he was, but he's got a bright future. And if Hanover can keep hold of him this season, I think they can do well. They could finish further inside the top 10.
Yeah, he's got a good burst of pace. He's got a decent finish, which is two of the main attributes to average striker. And finally, we're going to go to Schalke when they played Hamburg. It was 3-3, it finished. Not the best performance from my German team Schalke, and actually Hamburg will be happy. I think Hamburg have a decent team too. What are your thoughts? We'll go back to Kane.
Yeah, I thought Schalke started off the game really brightly, a goal after just a couple of minutes from Huntelaar. But as soon as Draxler went off injured, that's when the game just sort of got away from Schalke. Still, they did remain competitive throughout the game. It was a close game between Schalke and Hamburg. And they should have perhaps won it at the end with Matip's chance that he really should have put in. But it's a 3-3 draw, and, both sides go away from a point, which probably was a fair result.
Yeah, okay. So now, as it's the part of the year where most people are talking about transfers, we're going to have a bit of a chat on transfers now. There's been many big transfers this window, massive fees, as well as big players going from all sorts of clubs. So let's start off with the Serie A. Who do you think's had the best market this window? Let's start off with Josh.
There's been quite a few different teams that have strengthened different areas. Obviously, Napoli have lost Cavani, but they've reinvested that money in quite nicely, bringing in Higuain, he's a like-for-like replacement, as well as the likes of Mertens, Callejon, Albiol, obviously Reina on loan, and Raphael, the young keeper. So they've spent well in this transfer window, and now they look like they could have a good season, possibly challenge Juventus for the Scudetto. And I also think that Roma have also done some good business in this window, especially bringing in Strootman in from PSV is a very good signing, as well as Gervinho. I know he didn't have the best of times at Arsenal, as you two will know, but linking up again with Garcia, he played well under him at Lille, and I think he might do well now. So yeah, two sides there that have strengthened very well, and it sets up for a good season in Serie A, I think.
Yeah, like you say, there was two outstanding teams, Napoli and Roma. Roma brought in Strootman, Gervinho, Maicon as well at right back, and Mehdi Benatia, the centre back from Udinese, who Benatia had an absolutely brilliant season last term. He was one of the most solid defensive players in the whole Serie A, and that's a great capture for Roma. Now let's go to Harry.
Yeah, definitely.
Would you agree that these two are the teams that done the best business in the Italian league?
Yeah, with Napoli, they lost Cavani, who's obviously like one of the best strikers in the world, going for a ridiculous fee in the current game. He was brilliant for them, but they've replaced him with Higuain and others. And I really think if they can push on this year, they really could win the Serie A. I mean, even without Cavani, their squad, it's strong. It's got depth. They're not just, with City last season, we saw they didn't have much depth, and that's why they lost the title. But with Napoli now, they've got really strong depth. They can push on, and they can even try to challenge in Europe and try to get to the quarterfinals. And it's promising for them. Roma, yeah, they've been brilliant with Strootman, which is a fantastic buy. I mean, he's powerful, he's got a great technical mind, and I really think he can do well for them.
Yeah, and finally, let's go to Kane.
Yep,
I'm sure you agree they're the top two teams, but who would you say has had the better window?
I'd definitely say Napoli. Losing Cavani and bringing in Higuain, Reina, Callejon, Raul Albiol and Dries Mertens has been 5 brilliant signings just there. I also think Juventus had a good window, bringing in Fernando Llorente and Carlos Tevez in the striker positions where perhaps in previous seasons they have lacked a really sort of world-class striker. I don't think Quagliarella or Matri was ever at that standard. So they've done well to bring in 2 perhaps world-class strikers. I'm not sure Fernando Llorente is there just yet, but I think Carlos Tevez is definitely up there with some of the best in the world.
Yeah, I was reading a little blog earlier on, looking at the tactics of Juventus. They're really, it's scary. They've got a great team. That 3 centre-back tactic is actually really working, and maybe they can challenge for European titles soon.
Yep.
Anyway, on to, let's go to the Bundesliga now. Who do you think's done the best business, Josh?
Despite losing Mario Götze in this window, obviously, to rivals Bayern, I do think Dortmund have really done some good business. So yeah, some good business in this window. Aubameyang has settled in well and scored an hat-trick at the weekend. He's a really good signing, especially if Lewandowski ends up leaving next season, as well as I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name, but that Armenian centre attacking mid from Dortmund. He's scored quite a few goals last season, so I expect him to slot in quite well into the Dortmund side. So yeah, I'll go with Dortmund. I think they've replaced Götze very well. They've also brought in Papadopoulos, centre half. So yeah, I'll say Dortmund, although there have been a couple of sides who have bought well, especially with Leverkusen bringing in Son from Hamburg, who I think is a very good replacement for Andre Schürrle. But yeah, definitely Dortmund have been an outstanding side in this transfer window for me in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's been quite a few teams that have spent well. One that's sort of gone over the heads of football fans is Stuttgart. They've signed Moritz Leitner, who's a Dortmund youngster on loan, who's a very talented midfielder.
Really good
Dowie, who's a good sort of attacking mid/striker from Hanover. They got Daniel Schwab, who can play centre-back and right-back from Leverkusen, who's actually a good little player. And they also, another team that have is as you know, Schalke. Leon Goretzka, a great young talent. Adam Shalai, who scored yesterday, a very good player again. Clemens, very versatile midfielder, who has a massive future ahead of him. And finally Santana. So yeah, I think they've bought very well. Harry, who do you think's had the best window?
Well, I've got to say Dortmund for the fantastic Aubameyang. But although there are some teams in the Bundesliga, German youth has really come into force this year with Borussia Mönchengladbach. They haven't signed many. They've signed a few good signings, but their youth team that they had last year, who was quite young, they now all got the experience. People like Ter Stegen are doing brilliantly. He made some fantastic saves against Bayern on Friday night. And their team's going to really develop, and it'll be like new signings next season.
Yeah, that is a good point. They've got a great philosophy, if you like, there. Really good young team. It's just keeping hold of them, that's the problem now. And on to Kane. Who do you think's had the best window?
Well, Dortmund absolutely for sure, but I have been really impressed with the signings by Schalke. I think Leon Goretzka will be an excellent centre mid in the future. He could be up there with the likes of Mario Götze one day. Adam Scharzlai, I am a massive fan of. I think he had an excellent season last year. Only tallied with 13 goals, but his overall play and helping the team was absolutely astronomical for them. It could have led to them going down if they didn't have him. And also with Felipe Santana, who has been sometimes a bit calamitous, but at Schalke he probably will get more game times to settle into the team. And of course he is extremely fast, as many know.
Yeah, I think it's an important sort of thing for the back four that the two centre backs have a good understanding. And with Santana, he was playing with Subotic, he was playing with Hummels, he didn't really have a consistent player on his side. So at Schalke, when he sort of builds a foundation at the back, maybe that'll help him out.
Yep.
Okay then, now we're gonna, as most of the leagues haven't started yet, we're gonna say some predictions. So let's start off with the top four. Who are you going to say top four in the Serie A, Harry?
As much as Napoli do have a strong squad, I'm going to have to say Juventus first because of their brilliant squad. I mean, their midfield is outstanding, and this summer they've really improved their strike force with people like Tevez. So I'm going for them as champions once again with by a while. And Napoli is going to be second, in my opinion. They've got a strong squad. Higuain's a really good player. I'm going to go with AC Milan third. I think their young squad has really improved in the past couple of months with El Shaarawy, Balotelli, people like that. And then I think Roma may come fourth. I mean, yeah, they didn't have the best season last year. It was decent, but not their best. And I think they can improve with Strootman driving them on. I think they'll finish fourth.
Yeah, funnily enough, I wasn't expecting anyone else to have the same prediction as me, but I second what Harry just said. I mean, looking at AC Milan, I even think they're going to start challenging for top two now, because Mbaye Niang is a player I really like, the French attacker. El Shaarawy is outstanding. Mario Balotelli, of course. And I really think that I think next season third place, but in a couple of years' time, you never know, they could challenge Juve for that top spot. And like Harry said, Roma, who have bought brilliantly, fourth place. Strootman, of course, Maicon, Benatia, really good players. Let's go to Kane now. What's your top four in Serie A?
Well, I don't want to echo what's already been said, but again, that is exactly my top four as well. Juventus have the best team in the league, and it's simple as that. They're extremely ready for the new season, and they're just going to go and win it in my eyes. Napoli have brought in some really smart investments despite losing Cavani, and one of their biggest signings this summer has been keeping Hamsik. He signed a new deal, I think it's a few weeks ago now, until 2018, and I think that could ease the creative spark for them. AC Milan at third. You know, you've just said it yourself. El Shaarawy, Niang, Balotelli. They've got an excellent team there, and one certainly for the future. You know, people often used to look at AC Milan as a very aging team. Well, it's not the case anymore. They have a lot of youngsters coming through. And finally, with Roma in fourth, they've made some smart investments. Strootman is the main one, of course. He will be driving the team on. And obviously, with Gervinho coming in now, he adds that sort of pace as well as Lamela and people like that. And obviously, Totti's still there to boost the morale. He's obviously the club hero sort of thing. So I believe they could be finishing top four as well.
Yeah, a big part of Roma's team though is De Rossi in the centre of midfield next to Strootman next season. But possibly if they lose him, you never know. Fiorentina could be challenging, as could Udinese. So it's not. I know we've all so far predicted the same, but it's not going to be that easy. Let's see what Josh thinks.
Yeah, well, again, I've had to go with the same top four. I mean, Juventus, you know, they didn't completely destroy the league last year, but they was quite convincing, and obviously they dominate lots of games, keep the ball well. But now they've added, you know, two quality strikers in Llorente and Tevez, so that'll only increase their chances of winning the Scudetto. So I'm definitely predicting them to win it again. I've gone for Napoli second, purely because they've invested that Cavani money in very wisely, and they've got a good manager in Benitez as well, who has experience in managing top leagues. And after his previous stint in Italy with Inter didn't go too well, he'll definitely want to make up for that this time round with Napoli. Third, again, Milan. As you've already said, some great young players coming through who are now involved in the first team, but they also have a few experienced heads in there. I mean, when you look at Riccardo Montolivo, he's really impressed me over the last few seasons, and now he's obviously the captain, so he's got a big role. And I think they'll do well again. Might not be able to challenge the top two, but third place, should be definitely reachable for them. And then Roma fourth. As you've already said, I don't want to echo what everyone said, but definitely they're up there. They've spent well. Got a good manager in Garcia. They've still kept hold of De Rossi as of yet, who's, it's very important to keep him. And I just feel that this season is going to be a good season for Roma. I do think though that it will be a close battle for the fourth spot, especially with Fiorentina bringing in Gomez, and the likes of Lazio, Udinese, a couple more still being up there. So it's going to be an exciting season, but I do think that that's going to be the top four.
Okay, then on to the Premier League. The top four, with Mourinho coming in and Fergie leaving, it's a really hard one to predict, I think, and also Arsenal and Tottenham juggling for that 4th place spot. So let's see what Josh thinks about who's going to finish in the top 4 of the Premier League. Josh? Okay, I think we've lost Josh. Let's go to Harry.
Alright then, somewhere where my knowledge is strong. I'm slightly controversial on this matter. Although United have lost Fergie, have a less experienced manager in Moyes, and Chelsea have got the special one, or now known as the happy one, back. City have Pellegrini, and Arsenal have the evergreen Arsene Wenger. In first, I'm gonna have to go with Manchester City. Their last season, they had a great first 11, but towards the end, their players started to get tired and they couldn't manage to keep up. So, and now they've improved their squad with signing Negredo, Soldado, Jovetic, etc. David Silva had a bit of second season syndrome last year. I think he can really come into his own. Yaya Toure has signed a new contract, which will give him some more incentive to play. In second, this is where my controversy lies. I'm going to have to go with United. Although Mourinho is back, Chelsea has changed a lot since he was last here. John Terry and Frank Lampard have played a less important role. He's likely to spark up some controversy within the club. And I think after next year, I think he may come second or first if he's still there. And with United, we saw them in the Community Shield. I was there myself. Zaha, he looked pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty excited man as a United fan. His work rate was outstanding. He looked like the Ronaldo that first came to United. He'll never reach the heights of great Cristiano Ronaldo, but I think he's a real good future. In third, I'm putting Chelsea. They've got a great side with Hazard, Mata. I think Mata will really push them on and get them third, maybe challenge for second. I may be wrong, and they may come second or even first. In fourth, I'm gonna have to go with Arsenal, and that's if Bale leaves. If Bale stays, then I think Tottenham have a chance of finishing third or fourth. But if Bale goes to Real Madrid like it's rumoured to be and almost definitely gonna do, I think Arsenal will come fourth.
Yeah, like you say, Bale is absolutely massive to this. I'm gonna give out my predictions now. I'm gonna say first place Mourinho's Chelsea, because he's got that winning pedigree. Chelsea lacked a figure at the top, a manager who has authority and who had the players playing to their best and training them correctly, etc. So with Mourinho in the job, I think with this brilliant squad that they already have, Mata, Hazard, as well as now Schürrle, I think Chelsea are going to win it. I think second place is going to fall to Manchester City. Great additions in Navas, Negredo, Jovetic. Although Nastasic is now injured, they sold Colo Toure and they're a bit thin in central defensive line. I think they'll be alright though. Second place. Third place is going to definitely go to Manchester United. David Moyes, I don't get me wrong, he's a very good manager, but in his first season at a big club, getting used to the surroundings, trying to get the players to start to respect him, if you like, is going to be quite a hard ask. So, United third, and here comes the hard one, fourth. Spurs have made some really good signings in Capu, Soldado, Paulinho, Chadley, really impressive. But Arsenal have that winning pedigree every year. No matter how unlikely it is, they always seem to land fourth. So, yeah. I think it's going to fall to Arsenal. Don't forget Bale. But yeah, I'm going to go Arsenal fourth. Let's go to Kane. Top four, Kane.
In first place, I've gone with Manchester City. I'm really impressed with their signs of Negredo, Jovetic, Jesus Navas, Fernandinho. And I'm a real believer in what Pellegrini does. I've been a fan of his now for quite a few years at Malaga and before that. In second, I'm going to go with Chelsea. The Mourinho factor is absolutely huge for them, with not only the morale, but what he brings as a coach. And I certainly think he can inspire them to a second place finish. In third, I'm going to have to go with United. Even though they are last season's champions, I'm not sure what Moyes has to win them the title in the first year. And fourth, this is a hard one because I'm an Arsenal fan, but I'm going to have to go with Tottenham to finish fourth at the moment, with Soldado and Paulinho coming in, and if they can keep Bale as well, they will get fourth, unless Arsenal can sign Luis Suarez and Luis Gustavo. In that case, I think then Arsenal will get fourth. But it's going to be close. It all depends on how the window ends in, obviously, 3 weeks' time.
Yeah.
Let's see if we've got Josh back. Josh?
Yeah.
Alright then, let's see your predictions to the top four in England.
I've gone for Chelsea to win it. Mourinho coming back, it'll be a big boost. They've spent quite well. Andre Schürrle's a good signing from him, as well as Van Ginkel. But they've also got a lot of the very talented players returning from loan. I mean, when you look at De Bruyne, he had a good season on loan at Bremen, as well as Lukaku, who was fantastic for West Brom last season. So yeah, I reckon Chelsea will win the league, but that may depend on whether Torres can rediscover his shooting boots. Mourinho has a history of getting his strikers to score goals, and if anyone can get Torres scoring again, it's definitely Mourinho. But if Torres isn't scoring, it could all change, and City or United could win the title. But at the moment, I reckon Chelsea are equipped to win it. City, I think we'll finish second. Pellegrini coming in, I'm very pleased with the signing he's made, especially with Navas, Negredo and Jovetic. But I do think that his first season in the Premier League, it'll be difficult for him to adapt straight away and get his ideas into the players' minds. But second is where we'll finish, but I do think we will stake a challenge for the title. United will finish third, in my opinion. Again, a new man coming in, David Moyes. It'll be a year of transition, in my view. They'll definitely, be up there challenging, but I do think that Chelsea and City are a level above at the moment, especially with United not spending any money. Well, they've bought Varela, but he's the only signing they've made. They've not made a big signing, though they have been linked to some big names. And then I've got Spurs down as fourth. But again, going back on what you've said, it all depends on how the transfer window unfolds and whether Arsenal land Suarez or Gustavo, or whether Spurs hang on to Bale. So definitely in for an exciting season, especially with at the top end of the table. Yeah.
Alright, now on to the German league, the Bundesliga. Actually, no, we've forgotten the bottom three of the Premier League. I'm gonna say my predictions at first. I think, controversially, Fulham are going to go down, because last season an aging Berbatov kept them up, and they just don't have that adequate quality. The Premier League's improving vastly, and Fulham just, I don't know, they don't have that spark anymore. I also think Hull City will go down. I think that step up will be a bit too much for them. And finally, Stoke, under Mark Hughes, who's an absolutely diabolical manager in my opinion. And also, they've got players suited to Tony Pulis's game plan, and if Mark Hughes doesn't attempt to carry that on, I just don't think it'll work, even if he brings in his names. Let's go to Josh first for his prediction on the bottom three of the Premier League.
I've said two of the teams that you've said. I do think that Stoke will go down. I mean, they've obviously seen Mark Hughes as manager of City, and he was all right for us, but he wasn't able to take us to the level we wanted to go. Pulis, he's did a very good job at Stoke. Now Mark Hughes is in. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to take him any further. I mean, last season he was appalling away from home. I'm not sure whether he'll be able to sort of get him playing the way he wants them to play in one season. So yeah, I'm expecting them to go down, probably occupy the highest of the relegation spots. I reckon Hull will finish 19th. Again, I just don't think they're equipped, to stay in the division. Palace, they've lost Zaha, is a big loss for them. And they are relying on, people like Glenn Murray and Kevin Phillips and whether they can, score goals in this division. So yeah, that's my bottom three.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from with Palace with Zaha leaving. I think they'll just avoid it by the skin of their teeth. They've got Yannick Bolasie in there, who's actually a very talented player too. Let's see what Harry thinks about who's going to be demoted to the Championship next season.
Well, there's something to say about Stoke. I think they will go down, but I think it is for the better of the club. With Tony Pulis, many hated them for their sort of hoofing style and dirty style of play. And with Mark Hughes, he was that sparky winger, as he was nicknamed as Sparky. And I think with his managerial style, he's different to Tony Pulis in so many ways that he'll change the club for the better if they don't sack him immediately after Pulis' long reign. And they might get a bit excited and want to stay up if he goes down. I think they will go down for the better. Their squad isn't good enough. They haven't got the players required to keep them up in the Premier League. Going down with them, I've got to say Hull. They're a decent side and fantastic for the Championship, but I don't think they're good enough for the Premier League at the current moment. I think in a few years, maybe once they come back up, if they do, I think they'll do well. A couple of years ago, they were in the Premier League, and then they sort of unreadied themselves for it and went back down, and then they came back up. Now, I don't think they're ready for it now. I think they'll go back down. Along with them, I disagree with you on Fulham. I think they will do well with Berbatov. I think they can finish 12th or 13th around there. Going down with them, Crystal Palace, possibly. I mean, they've got some talent, but Wilfried Zaha, who played brilliantly for United in the Community Shield, he's at United now, and he sort of carried the team. Not as much as like Van Persie did with Arsenal 2 years ago, but he carried the team, and I really see them missing him, and I don't think they can adapt to life without him. So I think they'll go down as well.
Interesting. Let's go to Ken.
My bottom three are going to be, I think Cardiff City are going to go down. I don't think they've done well enough in the transfer market to bring in players who can play well in the Premier League. I think their squad might be a little bit too thin for the Premier League. Going down with them, I've got to agree with Crystal Palace. Without Zaha, they're going to look like a very average Championship side. He was the difference. He got them into the playoffs last year. And without him, how are they going to survive in the Premier League is my question. And finally, I've got to go with Stoke City. Mark Hughes has proved in the last few years that he's not a very good manager in the Premier League. And the signings he's made have actually been okay, but I just can't see him getting them to work together well. Eric Peters, Muniesa from Barcelona but I just can't see them playing well, especially he's trying to create them into this passing team, yet he's still at the backbone of the team. It's still very much a long ball team at the moment with Peter Crouch and players like Everington. I think the team's going to be very unbalanced and not have a proper style. I think Hull will stay up though. Steve Bruce has Premier League experience. He's done well at certain teams, Birmingham, Wigan. And bringing in players like Figueroa, I think they'll keep it. I think they'll just about stay up.
Yeah. Anyway, to carry on our predictions, let's talk about who's going to be the top scorer of the Premier League this year. I mean, it's going to be a hard one. Last season it was Van Persie and Benteke and players like that who were fighting for it. With Benteke's saga that's been over this window. I'm not sure if he'll replicate his season last season. So let's see what your predictions are. Go on, Josh.
There's definitely going to be quite a few contenders. Obviously, with the new signings, that have been made. Negredo's got to be in with a shout. He scored 31 goals last season for a Sevilla side, which wasn't, brilliant by any means, but he still managed to score a good number of goals. So if he can transfer that form into the Premier League, you can really see him scoring quite a few goals and possibly winning that Golden Boot. Then again, there's Soldado, another good player who performed really well in La Liga. So especially if Spurs can keep Bale, as well as the service of Lennon, Dembele, Holtby, Paulinho. There's lots of players who can provide him with good service. So if they can get that service in for him, I expect him to score quite a few goals. So he's definitely a contender. Van Persie, obviously, again, you can always expect him to score goals. No matter what players are playing around him. And then an outsider for me is Olivier Giroud. He scored quite a few goals in pre-season, as you two will know, and he's looked sharp. Last season, he still scored a decent number of goals. I think he was in double figures. And this season, I'd expect him to really push on and score goals. But for me, Van Persie is the top scorer at the moment. But there's definitely going to be a few that will score goals. So it'll be interesting to see who will end up winning that Golden Boot.
Yeah, Josh, Manchester City are blessed with 3 really good strikers in Dzeko, who's had a strong pre-season, Negredo now, and Aguero. So I'd just like to hear your views on who do you think they'll accommodate them in a 4-3-3, or how do you think they'll play it? Do you think they'll play a 4-4-2? Which 2 strikers will they use?
There will be there's lots of options for Pellegrini to work with. I mean, Dzeko and Negredo are, predominantly strikers and are capable of playing together, but not able of, occupying a different sort of wide role, because that's not they're not suited to that role. But Aguero is capable of playing on the left, likewise with Jovetic. So there'll definitely be lots of changes as the season goes on. We're involved in a lot of different competitions. Champions League, if you want to, make the next stage, we're going to have to change our side. It's interesting to see what strikers, how they'll fit into the system. I do think we'll start off possibly with Dzeko and Negredo for the first couple of games, and then as Aguero reaches match fitness, and expect him to feature in the side. But it's hard to say who's going to be the main striker, because at the moment I don't think there is one. And that's a good thing. So,
it's not a problem at all, is it?
No, a lot of sides would dream of having a strike force of what we've got, but it's fantastic to see so many good strikers. The only problem for me is that it might hinder and prevent the development of John Guidetti, who, he's a fantastic young player. I've watched him a lot. He's only just come back from injury and he's still not, he's still a couple of months away. But, it'd be sad to see him, leave, because he's such a talented player. But with all these strikers we've got, you can't really see him getting first team action. That's the only downside to having such a good strike force.
Yeah. Okay, let's carry on the conversation of the top scorer award. Harry, who do you think is going to be get the Golden Boot this season?
There's a lot more strikers coming into football. Young children are preferring to play a strike role instead of midfield, defence, or in goal, and it's really showing. In all the leagues, the strike force of most teams have improved. And in the Premier League with Van Persie, Negredo, Soldado, Giroud, people like that, Dzeko, and it's going to be a tight competition. I remember a couple of years ago when Chelsea won the league, Drogba won it on the last day when they won 8-1 versus Wigan. And I was very disappointed as a United fan that Rooney couldn't get there. And I think it will be as tight as that. I think it could possibly go down to the last day with, I think, all the top 5 strikers with Negredo, Van Persie, Suarez if he stays in England, Bale if he also stays in England, and others, maybe Giroud could be classed in that. I think out of them, I may be slightly biased as a United fan, but I think Van Persie will finish as top scorer. I do believe he is the best striker in the league at the moment.
Yeah, it's quite surprising though that none of you have mentioned Chelsea striker Romelu Lukaku, because I for one think that he has a shout, a good young talent. Maybe it's a couple of years too early, but he's a goal scorer. He's got physicality like no other, to be honest, in the Premier League, and he's a brilliant striker. So he could be in with a shout of getting top scorer. But bitterly enough, it's hard for me to say. I'd probably tip Van Persie. Anyway, Kane, who do you think's going to get the Golden Boot?
I think it's between 3 players: Sergio Aguero, Luis Suarez, and Robin van Persie. Robin van Persie and Luis Suarez showed last season they can score goals, and this season is going to be exactly the same. You can say, oh, Van Persie's aged now. Well, you've only got to look to yesterday's Community Shield to see that he's still going to be scoring goals. Yes, it's against a championship side, but he's still scoring goals. Suarez, whether it's at Liverpool or Arsenal, is going to be scoring goals. If you give him the service, he will score for you. And Aguero, if he gets the game time, if he plays the majority of the matches, he will score a lot of goals, and it's simple as. He is one of the best strikers in the league, and I think this year could be the season that we actually see that he is the best striker in the league.
Okay, let's go to the Bundesliga now. It's going to be a hard one because Mandzukic is a very talented striker, but we all know that Guardiola likes the false 9 formation with maybe Goetze there or Ribery. So I would, if Henk has stayed, I would have tipped Mandzukic. But as he's left, I'm going to say Lewandowski, because he's built a good partnership with Aubameyang by the looks of it, and as he's a key figure, he'll feature in probably every game. So I'm going to say Lewandowski. What do you think, Kane?
Yeah, I'd also have to say Lewandowski. But I do believe it probably will be quite close with players like Huntelaar and Kiesling, Mandzukic possibly, and even Szoboszlai. So it is going to be close. There's a lot of top strikers over there now. And yeah, I believe it could be close towards the end, like, strikers are competing to win the Golden Boot.
Yeah, last year we did see Kiesling, the talented striker at the team I followed last season, actually, Leverkusen. They've now signed Soing Min, or I think something like that. I'm not good at pronouncing names. So yeah, it will be an interesting one. What do you think, Harry?
Well, there's a lot of good strikers, as I said earlier, and a lot of them are in the Bundesliga at the moment. With Lewandowski, Aubameyang, Mandzukic is an outsider. Gomez has left. He was a fantastic striker, but there's others like Mandzukic who can replace him. I'm gonna have to go with Lewandowski. His talent is just above the others.
Yeah, he's a brilliant striker, undoubtedly. Finally, Josh, what's your thoughts on this, and who do you think is going to get the Golden Boot in Germany?
For me, there's a number of candidates. I mean, when you look at Lewandowski, Mandzukic, all the names we've mentioned, the goal scorers, and you can honestly see them scoring lots of goals this season. But when you see so many of them, when you can see so many of them scoring goals, it's difficult to predict who will actually be the top scorer. But for me, it's between Lewandowski, scores goals, easily. It's what he does. And especially with Aubameyang coming in and, keeping Rice. And, I reckon he'll score quite a few. As well as, Huntelaar scored 2 on, the opening weekend against, Hamburg. And, I think that maybe with Farfan on the right, Draxler just behind him, and there's been rumours of Stocker from Basel coming in, maybe on the left. So, if they can give him, the service in the right areas, I have no doubts that he will score lots of goals, and he will definitely be in with a shout of winning the Golden Boot in Germany. And then my final contender is Kiesling, last season top scorer, And now with Son arriving from Hamburg, I reckon them two will form a really good partnership. And I can see him, again, scoring lots of goals. But, it's a difficult one to predict. But either one of them three will win it. At the moment, for me, Huntelaar is the man who will do it.
It's a very hard one, I have to say, the German league. And, of course, the Serie A, which is blessed with great strikers, despite Cavani leaving. So, let's see what Kane thinks. Who do you think's going to finish with the most goals in the league in Serie A?
Who's going to finish with the most goals? I'm going to say El Shaarawy of AC Milan. There's also many other strikers who can compete with him. Obviously, you've got his teammate Mario Balotelli. You've got Carlos Tevez, who once played with Mario Balotelli at Man City. You've got Higuain coming in from Real Madrid going to Napoli. So there's plenty of players who can compete to win the Golden Boot. But for me, it's going to have to be El Shaarawy.
Yeah, I'm going to say Balotelli because I think with Balotelli coming in, I think he will be the number 9 up there. El Shaarawy will be in and around, so I think we'll see more of Balotelli in the box than we will see of El Shaarawy. But you can't forget Fernando Llorente, you can't forget Carlos Tevez, you've got Totti as well, still scoring goals, Di Natale, and you've got many a talented striker in Italy. So ultimately I'm going to say Balotelli. Harry, who do you think is going to finish with the Golden Boot?
I'm not too sure. They've got, there's some quality strikers in there now. But, there's Tevez, Balotelli, Higuain. I'm gonna go with Higuain because, he's gonna be clearly the main striker at Napoli, whereas for other strikers, they're gonna be sharing the goals with others, like Balotelli with El Shaarawy. Higuain, he's a quality striker. He grabbed a few goals in the games he did make last season, which wasn't very many with Madrid because of Benzema. He's a quality striker. Arsenal missed out on him to your, my delight and your disappointment. He's brilliant, and I think he's going to be top scorer next season.
Yeah, Higuain and Mario Gomez are two really good signings into that league, but whether they're going to do it in their first season is another question. Let's see what Josh thinks.
Yeah, it's difficult. Again, a difficult one to predict, but I'm gonna say that Higuain is going to be a contender, but for me, Mario Gomez is the man that will win the Golden Boot this season. I don't expect Fiorentina to have a fantastic season. I mean, they'll finish probably, may just miss out on a Champions League spot, but even in not the best of sides, you can honestly see him scoring a lot of goals. And, I've got to say that he will be the top scorer.
Yeah. So, and the last part of our predictions today is going to be the so-called surprise package. I mean, every year there's usually one. A couple of years ago in England we had Newcastle. This season you could call Swansea one, I guess. So let's start off with Germany. Is there any teams that haven't been predicted the best season that you think will surprise some people and finish in and around the top 4? Let's start off with Kane.
I think surprise package could be Hamburg. Showed yesterday against Schalke that they could be a team well up there, scoring 3 goals. And they have had a good pre-season. They won the DFB Pokal first round the other day 4-0 convincingly. And I think this season could be the season that they compete for European places.
Yeah, I genuinely think that, because we sort of forgot about the predictions in the Bundesliga, but I think Hamburg are going to finish 4th. I've got that down on the paper in front of me. I mean, they've got some really good talent. Getting a point away at Schalke and not only doing that but scoring 3 goals is absolutely brilliant.
They've got fantastic players in Van der Vaart and you look at Adler and people like that. Exactly. It could be a really, really good season for them.
Yeah, so me and Kane go with Hamburg. Let's see what Harry thinks.
Well, there was a surprise result a couple of days ago on Saturday in the Bundesliga with Hertha Berlin winning 6-1. And I was updating it on FFA Bundesliga, and what I noticed is it wasn't a fluke. They did have some pretty good talents in there. Two of their players scored braces, which was pretty good. They're not going to be like in the top 5 or near there. I think they'll be a surprise package though, not becoming amazing, but higher than most people would have thought.
Like West Brom.
Yeah, I was watching, I can't remember, I think it was Frankfurt, but I'm probably wrong. I was watching a game where Choupo-Moting, Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting, one of the best names in the history of football, was up front with Nikolai Müller, and they had a real good understanding. It really impressed me. I think it was Mainz who were playing, and that team could possibly surprise a few this season, because they were playing some free-flowing football. A bit shaky defensively, but they really did impress me. Let's see what Josh is going to say on who he thinks are surprise packages in Germany.
I'm going to agree with 2 Arsenal fans there. I'm going to say Hamburg. Last season wasn't the best of seasons for them, and now, despite losing Son to Leverkusen, I reckon they'll be in and around the top 6, and surprising a few, because I don't think many will predict them to finish that high, especially after losing a top striker in Son. But they've got Rudnevs. He's a decent striker, and then Maxi Beister, who scored against Schalke. He's a really good young player, and I expect him to fill the void that's been left by Son. And I do honestly believe that they'll be in for a good season, and they'll surprise quite a few people.
Yeah, you mentioned Leverkusen, the team that I followed last season. They went really unnoticed, unfortunately for them. Amongst the Bayern Munichs and the Dortmunds, who are playing fantastic football and rightly being hailed, not many are aware that Leverkusen only finished 1 point behind Dortmund in 3rd. So I really think that they were their amazing play just went over the heads of all football fans, and they deserved a lot more credit than they got. With Carvajal even going down the right wing from right back, Kiesling, Schürrle, 2 of which they've lost. Yeah, they really did. They really did play some good football last season. And should we go to Italy? Who's going to be the surprise package in Italy? Harry.
Well, there's a couple of teams that are decent there, that aren't the best, like the Romas or the Fiorentina or the AC Milan. And I think it may be Fiorentina. They had a good season last season. They're going to be challenging for Europe, in Europe this season. And, they've got some good players, even though Jovetic has left. And, without Jovetic, many predict them to sort of move down the table just as a top 10 team or top 7. But I think they will do well, and I think they could come, I think they're 5th this season.
Yeah, that's not a bad shout, to be fair. Let's see what Josh thinks, who knows his stuff on the Italian league.
There's quite a few up there. I'm going to say Roma. Not exactly a big surprise package, because they've got a good squad. But last season, they finished 6th, and this season I'm backing them to finish in the top 4. So to me, that's surprising, to finish, to move from 6th to 4th. They've, obviously what we said before about them in the transfer market, brought some really good players in. And if they can get Osvaldo, scoring goals, I'd expect them to finish in the top 4, and that'd be to many's surprise, yeah.
Yeah, there's teams. I'm not sure. I'd probably put Roma as my prediction too, because they've brought in some really good players, and with Napoli's brilliant window, it's sort of been unnoticed that Roma have almost done as good business in the summer. So, like we've said, Strootman, Jovino, Maicon and Benatia, who are 4 players adequate at playing Champions League football, are really going to boost them. Finally, I'm going to ask Kane.
My surprise package for Serie A is Cagliari. They've got some excellent talent in there with David Astori. They've got Nene, who's now there. They've got Victor Ibarbo, Marco Sal. They've got some really, really good players, and I think if they can get their squad to gel, then they could really be in for a good season.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm an absolute brilliant admirer of Ibarbo. He's got all the physicality needed to be a striker at the top level. And finally on to the Premier League, where last season it was West Brom. Let's see what Harry thinks and who he thinks will surprise many in the Premier League this season.
Well, there's been a few brilliant clubs with signings this season. Norwich signed Ricky van Wolfswinkel from Sporting Lisbon, who's a quality striker. I think he's 24 years old, which is good for Norwich. Sunderland have made plenty of signings. Giarancini is a brilliant striker, a brilliant winger even, one that is really going to fill the void that Sunderland were missing last season. Southampton is my pick my surprise for the season. Victor Wanyama is an absolutely brilliant player, a brilliant steal for around 12.5 million, and I think they're going to do brilliant with Luke Shaw and James Ward-Prowse coming up through the youth. They've got a good solid backup keeper in Gazzaniga. Southampton is my pick of the season.
Yeah, I know. There's been probably 5 or 6 teams that I can name that have bought some really good players in. Southampton, Norwich, etc. But my pick is Swansea because they're going to continue to improve under Laudrup, who's a brilliant manager. And Michu, their star man last season, is going to finally be played in his position, which is behind the striker. Now they've brought in Wilfred Boney, the absolute beast of a man that he is, the goal scorer. I can see him scoring 15 to 20 goals at least. And with Michu behind him, supplying him, Jonathan de Guzman, Dyer, etc. I think they're in with a shout to finish within maybe 6th or 7th, which would be a really good season for Swansea. So let's see what Josh thinks.
I would say Swansea, but to me, it's not too surprising to see him, maybe finish that high because of the players they've brought in and the standard of the manager they've got. So I'm expecting him to have a good season, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did finish around 6th. So I'm gonna say West Ham. It's between West Ham and Norwich for me. Norwich have brought in some good players. Hooper, Leroy Fer, Nathan Redmond, who I think is a tremendous young winger who was absolutely fantastic for Birmingham last season and probably England's best player at the Under-21 Championship. So them players will be good signings for Norwich, and they'll finish probably in the top 10. But for me, it'll be West Ham who will finish who will be the surprise package. Last season was, a solid season for them. Especially after just coming up from the Championship. And I reckon this season, they'll push on even further, improve on last season. They're linked with Downing, he would actually be a decent signing for West Ham, I think, for around 5 million. And, especially with players like Diame, Joe Cole, and then obviously signing Andy Carroll to spearhead the attack. I can really see them having a good season and, being a surprise package.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised no one so far has mentioned Aston Villa, where they're a brilliant young team. Christian Benteke, like we mentioned earlier. They've got Westwood in the centre of midfield. Antonio Luna, who they signed, who's a left back. They've got a great young team who are capable of big things in the future. So let's see if Kane mentions them.
Nope, I'm going to go with Norwich City. I've been really impressed with their signings. Gary Hooper from Celtic for one. Obviously, Ricky van Wolfswinkel cost a lot of money, but if he can form a partnership with Gary Hooper, then, it could be really, really good for Norwich City. They've also got Nathan Redmond, who's gone under the radar with Tom Ince and Zaha, but for me, Nathan Redmond's in that bracket of young wingers. He was fantastic, or probably the only fantastic player for England at the under-21s Euros. And also they've got Leroy Fer, someone who nearly went to Everton in January, but the move broke down at the last moment. And how they've managed to bring him in, for me, is just unbelievable.
Okay, now we've finished our predictions, we have got to do the last part of the show, which is looking at some of the questions we've got from some of our listeners. First, we're going to hear one from Matty McFly at Mattinio_, who says, do you think Bayern Munich will be able to repeat their efforts from last year? I'll start off answering that, and I definitely do, with Pep Guardiola there, who's an outstanding manager. And I'm sure that they can replicate and even improve on what they've done last year. But it's not going to be easy. Any match in football is a competitive one, which has the chance to go either way. So Bayern Munich have to keep their concentration. The next one, from Our City Views, goes to Harry. This is for you, Harry. Do you think Bale should stay at Spurs, especially with them bringing in players like Paulinho and Soldado? Could they get fourth?
Well, yeah, if he stays, I'm pretty sure they'll get third, even fourth, definitely fourth, and possibly third. Should he stay, on the other hand, Real Madrid, they're one of the biggest clubs in history, the best clubs in history. The money would be brilliant for him. And, to be honest, Real Madrid, it's hard to turn down. We've seen Ronaldo, Beckham, Michael Owen, people like that. They've all gone to Madrid because it's the history of the club is remarkable. The club now is brilliant. And even with players like Soldado, Paulinho, pairing up with Sandro and people, and Lloris there, I don't think Bale can, there's no motivation to stay there. With Real Madrid coming in, it's hard to turn them down, and if Tottenham finally accept an offer with Daniel Levy being the fine businessman he is and quite annoying for everyone else, I think he's definitely going to go.
Okay, and finally, no, not finally just yet, but for Josh, this is for you, mate. Do you think Dortmund and Leverkusen, as well as other teams, can mount a title challenge, or is challenging Bayern a lost cause? That's from Johnny McConnell at Johnny's Football Blog. That's for you, Josh.
You know, it's always going to be difficult to, to push Bayern for the title, especially with how convincingly they won it last season, and now with Guardiola coming in. You can see Bayern, obviously, being the outstanding candidate to win the title. But I'm pretty confident that both Dortmund and Leverkusen, will be up there challenging them. Lewandowski has stayed for this season, which is pleasing for Dortmund because he's a very important player for them, especially with Aubameyang coming in, because them two could form a really good partnership. And then at Leverkusen, you've got Son and Kiesling, who are two really good strikers who, again, another team with great strikers that can form a good partnership. It's difficult to predict whether they'll be able to really challenge them. But from my perspective and where I see Leverkusen and Dortmund at the moment, I think Bayern will possibly win it. But Dortmund and Leverkusen, are definitely going to be up there challenging for them. And if they do end up winning it, I don't think they'll win it as convincingly as they did last season. So yeah, I'd say that Dortmund and Leverkusen have a chance of winning it. Yeah, definitely.
Okay, I saved this Arsenal-related question for Kane. So it's again from Matty McFly at Mattinio_. So also, provided Gustavo does sign for Arsenal, whose place will he take? Do you think Arteta will become more of a squad player? That's for you, Kane.
Yes, I do. I believe Arteta will probably be dropped to the bench, and for me, that's probably the right decision if we bring in Gustavo. Gustavo, for me, will be the best defensive midfielder since Gilberto. I tweeted it earlier today. And with him, I see him just sitting in front of the defence, and I see Wilshere moving on as being more of the box-to-box midfielder. And I think if Arsenal do bring in Gustavo, it can be absolutely monumental. It really, really can.
Yeah, but you never know, because Arteta's sort of like an on-field captain, with Vermaelen being dropped due to defensive errors very regularly. He's been the leader. So, in terms of quality, Arteta probably is the one that's going to be dropped, unfortunately, because I really rate him as a player. But, yeah, I guess Arteta is going to be dropped.
the way I see it is Wilshere and Gustavo can become Gilberto and Vieira from the Invincibles.
That's a big statement, but yeah, fair enough. Anyway, that concludes our first edition of ForzaFussball. I hope you enjoyed it, and listen in for our next episode.